Hey, what's up guys, it is Thunderstruck115, and today I have got another response video to Under the Mayo. So, if you recall the last video I responded to Under the Mayo on, it was his shitty review of Halo Infinite's campaign. Well, as it turns out, there was another video of his that was a follow-up to that, explaining how he thinks he can fix Halo Infinite. And you want to know what his solution to fixing Halo Infinite's campaign is? Completely changing the shield and health system to be more like Doom Eternal. Now, I know this is the third response video in a row that's been about Under the Mayo. Honestly, the only reason I'm even responding to this one is because somebody asked me to. But I promise I'm not going to focus my response content around Under the Mayo the same way Hypocrite Hunter focuses his response content around Griffin Gaming, as there's another video I plan on making a response to by someone I've never done before. So yeah, but enough filibustering, and honestly, I think I'll try to keep production updates in the community tab from now on since I now have access to that. That way I don't pad out the length of these videos, but anyways, without further ado, let's get right into the cringe.
Let's get you mobile. Stand by for vehicle drop.
I've been pretty pleased with the reaction to my Halo Infinite video. There's been a lot of support from Halo players who understand my issues with the game, and it's nice to see some respectful and thoughtful discourse. Obviously, it's not universal, it's a critical video, there's gonna be a few freakouts, even on my part, but overall, not bad. In this video, I want to leave aside my thoughts about Halo Infinite's campaign and open world, good or bad, and focus solely on my long-time personal issue with the series, as well as expand on a couple points from my last video. This video will not have much in the way of visual examples, this is just me talking here, so if you want to listen to me ramble about Halo some more, welcome. My issue with Halo, and some other shooters to some extent, is the regenerating health system. But I think some people misunderstand my criticism to mean that I'd like to remove it completely and replace it. Definitely not. Halo's shield system is fundamental to its identity and sandbox gameplay. If you aren't hearing that beeping sound, is it really Halo anymore?
I want each and every one of you to remember what he just said, because it is going to be damn important.
So let's run through my gripes with the health regen system and how I think it could be improved in Halo Infinite. With the inclusion of the grappling hook, your options for mobility and confrontational combat have greatly expanded. But with the creation of the open world and weapon spawns, so too have the options for playing lame and sniping enemies who many times don't have the AI to deal with it. And I feel like the systems of Halo Infinite heavily benefit that sniping lame play over confrontational combat. And by the way, I'm not necessarily insulting a playstyle by calling it lame. If you play fighting games, you know that playing lame is a legitimate strategy that some characters are built to excel at, and some games are made to emphasize that lame playstyle and make it the focal point of their gameplay.
The fact that you're calling it lame play in the first place is an insult in and of itself. Don't act like you weren't insulting it.
I'm not going to criticize a sniper game or a hunting game for encouraging lame play. Now, it's important to make a distinction between options and systems. A game can have all the options in the world, but they don't necessarily benefit the systems the game is built upon. Halo Infinite presents new options for you to push into the combat zone, but still asks you to run away and hide behind cover if you make a mistake and lose your shield. There's no other way to keep yourself alive.
No, the way you get your shields back is by going 5 seconds without taking any damage. Now, yes, hiding behind cover is a good way to facilitate that, but you can always move perpendicularly to the enemy's firing line. Since every enemy in Halo Infinite uses projectile-based weapons with the exception of Jackal Snipers and Sentinels, with Jackal Snipers punishing you for not paying attention to your surroundings and Sentinels being harassment units. Everything else uses projectile-based weapons and can therefore be avoided. Especially in Halo Infinite since you have the grapple shot and later the thrusters, which helps you avoid their fire. Or you can just try not to take damage in the first place.
Halo Infinite's grappling hook is obviously there to make players want to get more involved in combat. It has a ground pound upgrade for Christ's sake. The grappling hook is a great option and it's fun to use in combat, but they haven't rebalanced the health system to accommodate it.
That's because they don't need to. The same tools that you can use to quickly close the gap on enemies and get up in their face are the same tools you can use to quickly retreat to cover if need be, or to dodge their fire. But let's go with the cover, okay? So, you're in the thick of it, you know, killing enemies up close with the pistol, or maybe even slicing and dicing with the energy sword. But then, oh no, you're suddenly low on shields. You notice there's a rock a little bit away from you that you could use for cover. So, you quickly grapple shot over there, hide behind there for a bit to refill your shields. Now, at full shield, you pop out of cover, use the grapple shot to close the distance, maybe with a grapple punch. Then maybe use the thrusters to dash behind an oncoming elite so you can melee him from behind. Maybe throw down some cover of your own with the drop wall. Hell, the inclusion of the drop wall helps you play more aggressively because you can just plop down cover wherever you need it. Sure, it's temporary and enemies can shoot through it with sustained fire, but it's a great option to encourage the player to get up close if they want.
The grappling hook is there for you to push into combat more than you ever could before, but it has a health system that is 100% dependent on running away. That feels like a contradiction to me. I think it would feel so much better with some kind of active health option, even if it were a small one. My point has always been, if the only way to keep my health up is to hide behind cover, what is my in-game incentive to come out of cover and push into combat? The answer I normally hear is because it's fun. And sure, I get that. And I guess not everyone feels the same as I do, but I don't get a lot of satisfaction from earning victory by taking the challenging road when the easy road was always available.
I think Doom Eternal is boring because I can just sit back at a distance and shoot enemies with the heavy cannon. Oh, what's this? The game has a whole bunch of options for me to push in and get more aggressive? No, why should I use that when I could just sit back and snipe everything with the heavy cannon from a distance? Never mind that there are more efficient options. What I'm doing is working. Like, that's what Mayo sounds like right now. Sure, sniping enemies can work, but it's not always the most effective option. In many cases, it's far better to go in more aggressively. Because if all you're doing is sitting behind cover at a distance and sniping enemies, then, well, number one, you're only limiting your creativity for no good reason. But number two, the enemies will be able to advance on your position, surround you, and take you out. Or they'll train all their weapons on your position and flush you out with grenades. Or they'll send something like brute berserkers to flush you out of cover. Additionally, when you start sniping enemies and they start taking damage, they will actually go for cover themselves, and you won't be able to hit them. And if it's an enemy like an elite or a high-ranking brute or grunt, they'll wait for their shields to recharge. Meaning, if you never advance, you're going to have a very tough time killing them. But if you were to go in aggressively with a weapon like, say, the Ravager, you can flush them out of cover and kill them more efficiently. Hell, isn't that the reason why you like Doom Eternal? Isn't that why you make videos on weapon combos for that game? Because that game has ways to eliminate enemies more efficiently? But when Halo Infinite does the same thing, you just seem to be unable to
keep that same energy.
At least not on a first playthrough, and that's largely what I'm talking about here. Any game is going to get busted on repeat playthroughs in practice. I'm talking about the first time you play it, when you go in not knowing much. I know that once you're really good at Halo games, you can play them however you want and be successful. I'm not a great Halo player, I would never pretend to be. But you know what? Neither are most people. Millions of people play Halo, and the majority aren't great. They're just people who want to play the game and have a good time, and probably put it down and move on to something else.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Okay, sure, some people are like that, but no matter how good the game is, there's always going to be that portion of people who play the game once and then never touch it again. The thing is, you're acting like people who have never played Halo before can't learn the game's mechanics and how to play better. Because, newsflash, it is totally possible to do that. Sure, not everybody's immediately going to jump into the game on Legendary, but that's the whole reason that lower difficulty options exist. It's to give players the opportunity to try out the game and its mechanics without being overtly punished for not having a deep knowledge of the mechanics, because again, they're still learning them. And then if they feel like that they've gotten better, then they can raise the difficulty. In fact, Halo Infinite even lets you change the difficulty in the middle of your save file. Granted, you do have to back out to the menu in order to do this, but when loading a saved game, you can choose what the difficulty is, and even change it from what it was you started with. Because keep in mind, everybody who is good at Halo was a newcomer at some point.
I place a lot of value on the first playthrough experience for someone new. And if you're a Halo fan, don't you? Don't you care about the experience of a new player coming to your franchise for the first time by picking up a sequel? It would be pretty crazy to ask a kid today to go back through 20 years of games to play through an entire franchise and get good at it before they're allowed to play Halo Infinite and give their opinion on it.
Strawman detected, opinion rejected. I defy you to name one example of somebody who's saying that you can't judge this game until you've played the rest of the Halo series. Because I do not see anybody doing that. Go on, I'll wait.
I want someone coming to my favorite series for the first time to be able to come in and enjoy the game and see what's great about it. I'd like to think Halo players want the same. And my point about the way this game is set up is, if you aren't already good when you come to this game the first time, the systems for survival lean heavily in favor of cowardice. Because, yeah, it's harder to go forward into confrontational combat using all your options and playing aggressively. That's okay, I'm glad it requires knowledge and practice. But since there's no active health recovery option, things are off balance. Halo games have experimented with different health systems before. The original game had health packs and a regenerating shield, so if you wanted to be at full health, you had to go get it. In 2002, playing Halo Combat Evolved multiplayer at LAN parties, even though I wasn't crazy about the game, I appreciated that if I almost died and then took cover to heal, it only recharged my shield. If I wanted to be at 100%, I had to move and find a health pack. It made it so running away wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. You're still hurt, you're in a compromised position. If I nearly killed someone and they got away, we weren't completely starting over after they healed. All I had to do was lower their shield again and they were dead. There was a sense of progress to the firefights that was lost when Halo sequels went with shield only or full-on shield and health regen. There's a system I love in Resistance Fall of Man where your shield is in 4 parts, and it only regenerated to a certain point, and you had to find the rest in pickups. So there are ways to tweak this health regen idea to make gameplay more active. Halo Infinite unfortunately has both shield and health as regenerating, without any other option. And again, I'm not saying the shield shouldn't regenerate, I'm saying there should be something else on top. And the health bar probably shouldn't regenerate. In my last video, I said there could be little 10% shield recharges scattered around combat zones, or there could be health packs or health recharge stations, something to keep you moving. Personally, on top of shield recharge pickups on the ground, I think it would be cool to occasionally have enemies drop small personal health packs, and make shield regeneration dependent upon manual use shield charges. Say your shield recharge is super fucking slow, and if you want a fast recharge, you gotta use an item, and you could only carry 3 at a time. You could trigger them during combat for an instant recharge, or hide behind cover and use them. This would allow you to heal yourself during confrontational combat, so you aren't always forced to run away. But it would also nerf lane play a bit, because if you're getting hit while sniping, you'll eventually run out of shield charges and you'll need to push into combat to get more.
So your solution to fixing Halo Infinite is to change the core identity of Halo. Do I really need to elaborate on why this is a stupid idea? Tying shield and health regeneration to a finite resource would not improve aggressive play. If anything, it would nerf it. In its current iteration, Halo Infinite allows you to regenerate your health and shields by not taking damage for 5 seconds. So if you take significant damage and need to heal yourself, hide behind cover for a few seconds, and then bam, you're good as new. You can do this ad nauseum. Now let's consider Mayo's suggestion. He says that this would nerf lane play by giving you a reason to push into combat. I'd argue that what he's suggesting would actually encourage lane play even more. Because if shield and health recovery is tied to a finite resource, then you're going to want to conserve them and play more defensively. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certainly many games that do this kind of playstyle really well and are really fun. But that's not what Halo is about. Halo is about giving the player many viable options, both offensive and defensive. Now, the reason that active health recovery encourages aggressive play in something like Doom Eternal is because you get them from the enemies. And in that game, you have fodder demons spawning infinitely until the encounter is finished. And if, like you said, shields would still regenerate slowly, without using the consumable, then that would just encourage you to sit back and cover even more and just wait out the shield recharge time, instead of using valuable resources. So, I mean, unless they're accompanied by a whole bunch of immediate use items, like the stim packs in Doom Eternal, I don't see this working. But again, I don't really think Halo should do this because it would change the core identity of Halo. Hell, Mayo even said it himself.
Halo's shield system is fundamental to its identity and sandbox gameplay. If you aren't hearing that beeping sound, is it really Halo anymore? I'm curious what fans think about this. I think that there could be adjustments made to Halo Infinite's combat, especially in the health system, that would help accentuate its strengths while not hurting what people love so much about it. Obviously, you could pick these ideas apart for flaws, but that's not the point.
What can I say? Criticism bad, am I right?
I'm just saying there's gotta be a way to make things a little more active. Regardless of what you do, adding some kind of active health system to the mix with the shield regen system behind cover wouldn't ruin Halo's gameplay at all. It would expand it. There needs to be a way to provide real reasons to push into combat, because when I push in, I find a hell of a lot of reasons to pull back. But when I pull back, I don't find reasons to push in other than fighting against my own boredom. Hiding behind cover and exploiting the AI is a tactic that is presented as viable from the very first level, and it's very effective. It's efficient, it's easy, it's safe. It's a great fuck it option, and I don't like having a constant fuck it option at my disposal when I'm trying to learn a new game.
Then maybe Halo just isn't for you. Because the core conceit of Halo is giving the player a wide variety of viable options, and letting the player assess which ones would be the most effective in that scenario. And yes, staying back behind cover is the most effective option in some scenarios, but in others it's far better to push in. If that's not a game that appeals to you, that's fine, but don't ask a game to change its core identity to what you think it should be, when what it's currently doing is working, and what you're asking the series to change is going to turn it into something that it's not. That's why Halo 4 and 5 were criticized so much, because people felt that it was changing into something other than Halo.
And before anyone brings it up, yes, some of my favorite games have fuck it options like that, and I don't like it. I wish those games were better balanced. They're not safe from criticism. Do I think square square triangle is too strong in God of War? Yes, I do, and I'm not gonna get upset if someone says the balance is off. Some of you might say I'm messing with Halo's sandbox design. I hear a lot about how Halo is about player expression and freedom to approach fights how you want, and it isn't supposed to force you to play any specific way.
And those people would be correct.
But I disagree. I think that's a perspective you develop with familiarity of the series and a good understanding of the game.
Wow, you mean the people who understand the game and its mechanics the best are able to understand the core conceit of the series the best? Who would have fucking guessed?
From the perspective of a new player learning the game, Halo Infinite very clearly is pushing you towards lame cover-based play because of how punishing it is to make a mistake when you go in, leaving you with literally no other option for survival other than running away and waiting for your shield to recharge. So I don't buy into this idea that Halo doesn't push you towards any particular playstyle.
Let me explain something, Mayo. You choosing to stay back and shoot enemies from cover at a distance does not equate to the game forcing you to do so. You can play very aggressively and up close, even on Legendary. Granted, you need to be good at the game to do this, but the game is only heavily punishing on Legendary and maybe Heroic. But again, most people aren't immediately going to jump into those difficulties, and will likely only do so once they have a better understanding of the game and its mechanics. In fact, you want to know how I know that Halo isn't meant to push you into one specific playstyle, and it's supposed to give you a wide variety of options? Because the games in the series that most heavily push you into a certain playstyle are the ones that are the most criticized. Halo 2 pushes you into staying back and shooting enemies with precision weapons from cover, because leaving cover is only going to get you killed because of how fast the enemies shoot and how little health and shields you have in that game. Halo 4 pushes you to spam precision weapons against enemies at a distance, because every weapon in the game that isn't one of the main precision weapons can't hold that much ammo. And because the game doesn't place a lot of pickups to refill ammo for those weapons, you have to use precision weapons, or weapons that enemies readily carry. And because most melee attacks can kill you in a single hit, and because some Promethean Knights wield scatter shots which melt you, you have to stay back at a distance most of the time. And then Halo 5 has you not doing threat assessments because in many cases there aren't more efficient ways to kill enemies, namely the Promethean soldiers. So no, Halo Infinite doesn't force you to stay back and shoot enemies from cover, it's just one option of many. Ultra Kill doesn't require you to use nothing but the charge pistol, it's just one option of many. Doom Eternal doesn't require you to use nothing but the heavy cannon. It's just one option of many. In fact, you know what? Just for that comment of yours, I decided to use Halo 2 Legendary footage as my B-roll. Normally, I'm not very selective with what I use, but just for you, I want to show you what being forced into using cover and shooting enemies from a distance actually fucking looks like.
I think if you rebalanced the health system a little bit, you could have a first-time playthrough experience that benefited both playstyles. Halo fans could continue to play however they like, long-distance lane play would still be viable to a point, and new players would have a reason to get out from behind cover sometimes too.
No, what you're suggesting isn't just rebalancing the health system a little bit. No, it's completely fucking overhauling it. Rebalancing the health system a little bit would be something like changing the amount of health you have, or the amount of time it takes to recharge. Changing it from a system to where your shields and health regenerate on its own, to something where you have to use active health recovery pickups, is a major fucking change.
All of this boils down to my belief that it's a game's responsibility to show you how fun it could be, not rely on prior knowledge or expectations. Because I guarantee you, there's no way that developers design a bunch of interesting mechanics hoping that new players come to their game and end up ignoring them because of how effective the mindless option is.
I find it funny how Mayo is showing the gameplay trailer, showing some of the cool shit you can do, as if you can't do it in the game, because, spoiler alert, you fucking can. He's just choosing to go with lane play, instead of experimenting and trying out different options with the tools of the sandbox, like the game intends you to.
So, do I just not understand Halo? I mean, I think I do. I understand the appeal of the sandbox design, offering multiple viable solutions to approaching a combat scenario. I think it's more of an issue of balance. And it's especially bad in the open world of Halo Infinite, where you can spawn in whatever overpowered weapon you want and take them into all the identical side missions. I really don't get that. But I am at least happy that you can't significantly break main campaign missions that way. That's nice. However, the ability to pick whatever weapon you want and bring them into main missions definitely has an impact, especially since there are ammo refill stations littered around the maps, so you can straight up ignore the Halo gameplay loop that I thought Halo players found so enjoyable.
What, having multiple viable options? Because being able to choose from a wide variety of weapons gives you more options? Like, this dude says he understands what Halo is about, but it's clear to me, and I think it's clear to anybody who actually understands Halo, that he doesn't understand what Halo's about.
You know, the whole thing where you gotta adapt to the battlefield depending on the weapons that you find around you, cause weapons ran out of ammo and you couldn't hold a full arsenal. Is being able to ignore that really a good thing?
Sure, you're able to ignore that, but it is not advantageous to do so. Let's just say you go into an encounter with a battle rifle and a sniper. And let's just say at first you're doing really well. Picking off grunts with it, using grenades to disrupt Jackal's positioning so you can headshot him with the battle rifle, and dealing with larger enemies like elites and brutes with a sniper rifle. But here's the thing, sniper rifle only has a finite amount of ammo, and so does the battle rifle. But the sniper rifle is particularly limited due to the fact that it's a power weapon. And since, as far as I know, there's only one part on the map where you can actually find power weapon crates, and that's in a linear mission where you need to take down phantoms, it's not like you can readily refill them. Alright, so this is Thunderstruck from the future, so when I was playing this game with my brother, I actually found that there were a few more power weapon ammo crates around the map that I just never found before. So, no, I guess that isn't the only place you find them. However, they are so few and far between that in 99% of scenarios, you're not going to be able to get more ammo for power weapons, unless the enemies themselves are carrying them. Which means, once you run out of sniper ammo, you're gonna have to pick up something else. There's also enemy weaknesses to consider. Sure, you might be able to deal with grunts, jackals, and possibly even brutes with them. But say there's a brute chieftain, your dinky little battle rifle ain't really gonna do anything against it. Or, what if elites start rushing in? As long as the shields are up on the elites, your battle rifle ain't gonna do jack shit to them. So you're going to have to find a weapon that's good at taking down shields. And wouldn't you know, weapons like the pulse carbine excel at taking out shields, so you need to push in to grab the weapons that are effective against the enemies you're fighting. Or, let's say there's vehicles backing them up. Neither the battle rifle nor the sniper rifle is going to let you effectively deal with them unless you happen to be able to get an angle where you can kill the driver. But in most cases, that's not going to happen because either the driver is protected by the vehicle itself, or it's moving so fast that you probably won't be able to land a hit on him. Meaning you'll need some kind of weapon to take out the vehicle itself, or you'll need a weapon that can disable the vehicle, like the shock rifle, so you can kill the driver more easily, or you need to get up close with, say, the grapple hook so you can hijack the vehicle. Or say there's some brute berserkers that start charging at your position. They run crazy fucking fast. Generally, the battle rifle is used for headshots, but because brute berserkers have helmets, you're probably not going to be able to easily headshot them. And the sniper rifle is not good against targets up close due to the lack of aim assist when not in scope mode. Sure, I suppose you might be able to take out one of them as they charge at you, but that still leaves you the other to deal with. So you're probably going to need a more close-range weapon to deal with them when that happens, like, say, a Ravager, or a shotgun, or even an energy sword. And hell, even on the subject of those ammo crates you brought up earlier, you still have to go up to them and hold X on them in order to get the ammo. Meaning, you still need to push in to get them. Weren't you bitching earlier that the health system discourages players from pushing in? Yet, here we are, with a tangible reason to actually push forward. And because of the different strengths and weaknesses of the enemies, you still need to adapt to what's on the battlefield, because, again, you can only carry 2 weapons at any given time.
I hear from some people that Halo Infinite allowing you to spawn your preferred weapons is actually just the game giving the player freedom, and that's what Halo is all about. So I would ask those same people, does that mean that in the older games, you felt forced to adapt to the battlefield and available weapons? And if you did, was that a bad thing? Do you think the classic Halo games would be better if you could pick the same weapon loadout for every mission and keep those guns refilled? Let me know if you actually think that. Cause when I look at the classic Halo games that are touted as being beacons of freedom and player expression, I see games with a combat loop built around limitations. Limitations that funnel you into the way the game is designed to be played. Sounds like Halo has been trying to force you into the way they want you to play it.
I mean, I guess I suppose I could see the argument for not being able to spawn in with whatever weapons you want. But having to adapt to the battlefield does not mean you have a lack of options. Let's take Savo Highway from Halo 3. Specifically, the encounter where you're on the hill with some Marines and you have to fend off several waves of brutes that are dropped off by Phantoms. You could stay back and use the tried and true plasma pistol headshot combo. Or you can grab a fuel rod gun and blast them into oblivion from a distance. Or you could grab a shotgun and get up close and personal, although this is kinda risky. You could take the landmines and deploy them in the path so that the enemies run into them. You could take some of the heavy weapons and give them to your Marine allies so they do a lot of the legwork for you. You can engage them at mid-range using the assault rifle to drop their armor and then finish them off with a headshot. Hell, you can even use the Needler as it is mildly effective. Just because you're adapting to the battlefield doesn't mean there's a lack of options. So no, most of the time I didn't feel forced into using any specific tactic. I just looked at the list of available options and went with the ones that I thought were the best, and if it turned out that what I was doing wasn't working, I'd reevaluate and see how I could try and pull off that strategy better, or just go with a different strategy.
Pushing the player into the fun zone through limitations. What a concept. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank God, I can finally stop watching this dumpster fire. So, I guess the takeaway here is that Mayo thinks he understands Halo, but it's quite clear that he doesn't. And that not every game needs to go with the same design philosophy. Sure, a game can push you into the way it's meant to be played through challenge, but it could also be a more sandbox-style game where it gives you a wide variety of options and it's up to you to figure out which one is the most effective. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and tell me what you think of UnderTheMayo being an absolute clown again. Anyways, that's it. Peace!